Hello and welcome. Welcome to another edition of CPR's Clubhouse Live. My name is CPR Jose Ortiz, and man, do we have a treat for you. We have the one and only Peter Fontaine as our guest right here on CPR's Clubhouse Live. Welcome, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm still waiting for my $5, but we'll get to that story.
That's a story that's never ending.
No. It's the Peter Fontaine $5 story, which we'll get into during this episode of CPR's Clubhouse Live. It has to do with getting arrested and $5, and we'll get to it. Let's go back in time. I was doing some research before we got here. Even though I know everything about you, I wanted to make sure I got the dates correct. It's been 33 years since The Way She Looks at Me was released.
When she looks at me, come hold me all so tight. Come stay with me tonight.
Back in 1989. And I have to say that, man, like doing the math, it just brings me back to, my childhood, but it also brings me back to the first time that I heard your voice, and the first time that I got a 12-inch record with the gray coloring and just black lettering that says Peter Fontaine on it. What do you recall from that song, The Way She Looks at Me, and how did it end up on High Power Records?
Well, there's a little backstory behind that, and I always give the total respect to Frankie Cutlass. I actually was talking with him today. We was just chopping it up about, our childhood and stuff like that. And, it was because of Frankie Cutlass who came out with the actual concept of The Way She Looks at Me. That basically was something, a lot of songwriters, artists that write their own songs, they've either gone through something personally and then, they write it down on paper. That was one of the songs that I've never actually personally went through something, and Frankie came up with a concept. Why don't you write about the way girls look at guys in bars, when you go out to the clubs, the opposite, And, me at the time, what are we going to call it? And Frankie was like, well, The Way She Looks at Me. And I was like, oh, okay. So, and he kind of like doesn't take credit for it. Like, it wasn't something like he was like, yo, I wrote half the song, or I wrote a little verse or something. He was like, and he sang a little part. Then I added to it. He played a little melody to it so I can get a kind of a better grip to the melody. And then the song became, and it was because of Frankie. And I give him that respect, till today, and that's basically The Way She Looks at Me, bringing the song's attention to the industry people, which is, the ones you want to get signed to,
Right.
Back then Micmac Records was just kind of starting. And Frankie actually told me that too. Frankie was like, yo, hey, if you want to like shop it around, though, this guy, Mickey Garcia, he's about to open up Micmac Records. I mean, I've been doing my thing and producing and blah, blah, blah. And you should look into him. And I didn't know what directions to go yet. I went to a couple of my friends who was in the industry, a total different genre. They was into the hip hop, and I was trying to get the song The Way She Looks at Me more developed, because like I said, Frankie just did a little melody to it. So I had a friend of mine's, Robert, TK, Mendez, Anthony Lulio. He passed away, God rest his soul. They actually took me to a big major studio that they had a connection with, and they put together this little demo. And it was like, well, this is something you could shop around. On top of that, I knew a couple of people, but I didn't know too many people. I knew of the Eddie Riveras, God rest his soul, VIP Record Pool. And I kind of, felt that would be a place that I can probably, land a deal, meet somebody or something. But not being able to get in there at that time, my boy TK was like, well, listen, you would probably need some kind of management. So he introduced me to a guy by the name of Tony Estevez. Tony Estevez worked with PKO Records. And everybody that knows PKO Records, that's Trilogy, that's Clave Rock, so
LA Girls,
all that, And
Even
Tony,
the unreleased song, Kimberly, I'm Still Loving You, which is
yeah,
the past present everybody wants.
oh, well, Paco and the guys, that's who TK introduced me to, and and Tony Estevez. And of course, introduced me as, listen, is a good friend of mine's. He wants to become a singer. He has a song, and mind you, this is just The Way She Looks at Me. Okay,
right.
So I let them hear it. They, Tony felt like it was a good song, and right there and then he basically tried to shop it to PKO Records, but they didn't feel it was a strong enough song for them, or so to speak. And didn't want nothing to do with it. They did give me blessings. Hey, good luck in the industry. And so Tony took on it to manage me. And Tony was able to get me into Eddie Rivera's VIP record pool party. And as we're there, mind you, I've always read the back of labels and stuff. So, and of course, I knew artists as far as like, wow, that's Judy Torres. That's her voice, and oh, Chris Barbosa, that's George Lamont's producer. So, I was trying to like school myself. So I'm not in front of somebody and they mention their name and I'm like, yeah, never heard of you, and I'm trying to get a record deal,
Yeah.
So as we're there, I see Judy Torres and I love her voice. And that was my thing. I was like, man, Judy Torres, like who manages her? And Estevez was doing his job and said, listen, I just spoke to Judy Torres's manager, George Vascon. Let's go over there and let's talk to him. Let's pitch him, the song. So at the time, I don't know why I thought this. I felt like, here I am talking to Judy. Maybe this will help, with talking to George Vascon and Judy Torres, that if I was to say the song is called The Way He Looks at Me, so I switched it around, it wasn't like we gave George a cassette and George just put me right on the spot and said, well, go ahead and sing the song. And I said, okay. And didn't change the way he looks at me. I sang it exactly how you hear it on record. Is there a way that I can prove my love to you? I see the way that she looks at me. And George was like, you wrote that? And at that time I said, yeah, I did. I didn't involve Frankie, but I said, yeah, I write my songs that. And he said, bro, you got a nice voice. You know what? Come check me out in Fordham Road. You and Tony, be in my office. And not to get into more details, that was it. It was history. Tony Estevez and George Vascon shared the percentage of the management contract. George Vascon had ties with everybody, but felt that this would be the one, before I would go try to shop around to other places, that this would be the one place that probably they would pick me up. And he sent me to Tony Garcia, High Power Records, down in Broome Street.
And was Tony then in charge of taking your demo and making it into the song that it became?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Tony, in a nice way, just ripped it all apart. Producers tend to do that back in the day. They want to always grab their style. They want to stamp it, So Tony heard it and he was like, that's nice. What is that sound? Is somebody clacking like spoons in the background? And he going, oh man, he's tearing this apart.
Yes.
But came up with a nice beat. And to be honest, I introduced him to TK. And they had a nice little relationship for a little bit. And he was able to put on The Way She Looks at Me. It's been so long. Something Revenge, which was a little beat. And it had the little Buffalo Girl sample in it. And if you see on that, it says, thank you, special thanks to TK, Robert Mendez.
Yeah. We'll put the information up. I know that I have the 12-inch record of that. I remember that I was a part of the radio station that we created at the newspaper of the high school. And we used to play freestyle and mimic what we heard on 90.7 on Friday. So I would play high power stuff. And I did my an article for the school newspaper on High Power Records and on all the songs that I collected. I remember that High Power was like one of the first labels that I collected everything. But then I came across this record that I bought multiple times in many different ways because I thought it was different people. But I remember getting this orange, orange and black 12-inch record, and it said Tony Dr. Eddie Garcia featuring Peter Fontaine, Just Like the Wind. 1990. And all I can tell you is that to this day, that is a song that when you open up the request lines, that there's at least 3 to 4 people that request it still to this day by the name. Do you have Just Like the Wind? Do you have Just Like the Wind? Because it became a New England phenomenon. It's a song that it is now 32 years old. And for 32 years, that song has been synonymous with our radio show and with, just people that just attach themselves to it and have never let it go. And I can tell you so much about the stories of me and my friend Pocho, Jose Gonzalez, in his small little, car. He has a kicker in the back. It's one of those house speakers that he puts in the back. I'm in the back writing bitch, you know what I mean? And I got the 2 heavy guys in the front, and he has a cassette. He has a cassette that he recorded from the radio station, and he's playing it. And then, he doesn't have the rewind button, so he fast forwards it, turning the cassette over to the other side. And then that's the song that you would pass by the bus stop after school, so people could know that you're cool. You know what I mean? And you're trying to pick up chicks by listening to Just Like the Wind. I'm writing bitch. I ain't picking up nobody. I got 2 men in front of me that are 250 each, and I'm in the back like this with a kicker in the back, and they're listening to Just Like the Wind that they didn't buy, but they recorded on the cassette from the radio station. So those are just my thoughts of remembering listening to Just Like the Wind for the first time and collecting that 12-inch record. And then afterwards, we'll discuss that in a few seconds, how they kept on relabeling that same song. But let's talk about like the biggest song in your career and one of the biggest songs in New England. So if there was like a top 3 or top 5, it would be in there. It would be like Just Like the Wind. It'll be Bernardo, Why Did You Quit on Me? It'll be like these underground freestyle songs. Class, Find Another Puppet. These are the songs that people gravitated to, and they just wanted to play over and over again. And don't get me started on Johnny O and Cynthia, Dream Boy, Dream Girl. But there's something about Just Like the Wind that gets people to this day to love that song to the point where they want to listen to it over and over again and never get tired of it.
Walk into the world of tomorrow, high behind the range of the sorrow. Dream of a love that could have been, but now you're gone forever. My love, my girl, just like the wind. No, 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 no. Just like the wind.
So let's go back to 1990. How did the concept of Just Like the Wind come about?
Oh, wow. That was that was an event that happened to me personally. And I don't know, sometimes I mention the name, but I try to keep a name anonymous, but it's been so many years.
Right.
I did fall kind of whooped head over heels over a female. I actually used my my career, so to speak, to gradually ask her if she would be one of my dancers. Oh my Lord, you are so gorgeous. Look, listen, I'm sorry, there's no disrespect. I don't want your number, but look, I'm an artist. My name is Peter Fontaine, and you on stage next to me. Do you dance? That kind of a pitch, and it wound up being that I was in the same building, which probably later on we'll get to that Ray and Robert, these 2 fashion designers, used to do fashion for a lot of artists, and NV used to go in that building a lot, and that's where the girl lived. I was introduced to them by a cousin of mine, so that's how I was able to meet her in a building, not like in some nightclub or in some store. I was coming out the elevator and she's coming into the building, and I'm like, whoop, and we had an affair. You know, we had, I can say, a relationship, but wasn't an affair, because later down, I come to find out that she was married.
Wow.
You know, and it lets it out the cat now. Now let me stop.
Cat's out of the bag, sir.
That's it. But you know, that's what it knowing that is kind of the opposite of what happens, you know, with some guys. It's usually the guy, yo tengo una esposa. I'm sorry to let you know, we can't do this no more. So it was basically the opposite. And when she told me that, it just kind of, it broke me down, man. And in the middle of the night, I got up and I just, basically, I was kind of like writing this letter to her, like the Dear John letter kind of deal, you know, hey, listen, you know, as I look into your eyes, I can see that you wanted me to love you, and so on and so forth. And
yeah, because we were deep back then. There was no like social media, and you had to get a piece of paper and a pad, and you need to write some stuff down. You know,
I wanted to leave it right there on the pillow, you know. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh snap, like, and I'm very artistic when it comes to melodies and stuff. So I just started to look at it and in a melody form, you know, not just writing la 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 la, and it came to me, and that was it. Done deal. I didn't leave her the letter. I just broke out, you know. And I went down to Tony. I went to Tony's and I waited for the morning time. I was hanging out that whole night, going through, damn, she broke up with me. And on top of that, I got this in my hand. And this is a song. And Tony just released The Way She Looks at Me. Now I got to convince Tony to put this out. And I think kind of like the question you was asking in a roundabout way, it was my energy. And of course, because it happened to me, of how and when I did convince Tony to release the song, that I came at it with an energy, because it really happened to me. And I mean, you're the DJ. So, but at that time, I think they were 120 beats per minute. And I was so electrical. I told Tony, like, yo, give me 124 beats. Give me 122. I need that. I need it fast. I need it energetic. Because if I think that it will give you that energy.
I think that having that energy and having that extended mix, because I know people have the slow version. For me, it's is that song that starts off like you don't expect this hard hitting beat. You don't expect this song to build to a crescendo. And you don't expect these words that many people mangled over the years, and they're trying to decipher, you know, for so long. You know, I can tell you myself that having a cassette of the song first and trying to think what you're, trying to decipher what you're saying in the lyrics. And the thing about it is, and I hope that people understand this, when you do the part where you say that it starts fading out. People actually sing that song with the edits. They don't put, they're like, oh, everybody's doing that, because that's how many times and how many how much they love the song that they want to mimic everything in it. But the fact that the extended version, it's amazing, and then the slowed down version has that materialistic girl break in the middle of it. I think those were endearing parts of the song, but then the lyrics are the best part of the song. The hard hitting beats is great, because that song, people will rewind it, they will buy 2 copies so they can mess around with it. But the lyrics itself that people try to decipher for so many years, those and that's what really matters. And then when you really decipher this song, it's like you found the jackpot. Like, you really get the meaning behind the song. And then you start singing the song with you, so people will dance to the beat until it gets to the lyrics, and then they'll start singing the lyrics with you. And whether they get their words correct or not, they're gonna sing it, and in the middle they're gonna go they're gonna do everything because they love that song so much. Now, were you aware of how popular the song was when it was released, or did it take you some time?
it took me a little time, and I don't know if you want to get into this now, but you know, the song itself, because of at that time, you know, what I was going through with the girl, and then I broke up. It was a fireball of energy that I used to give. Like if I just came, excuse my French, like a bat out of hell, like, you know, I would give you that impact. And to add to the reason why I asked Tony to give me a faster beat, because a lot of people don't know or don't really venture into, you know, I had a past where I was a pop locker, and I was a well-known pop locker called Body Mechanic. So just like in pop locking or breakdancing, the song had, when we would go off on a break, it would have to have that energy, you know? So I wanted my song to have that energy to show my skills of dancing as well. And I think that leaked into La Calle, especially sugar-coated with my antics of me being the young Latino from the projects that one day I'm cool, next day I might get into a fist fight with you, or you know, because I'm still wet behind the ears and trying to absorb that I'm an artist, you know. So sometimes I would
agree. I agree with that, and the fact that you have people de la calle, people that are, you know, have done some time, the people from the hood that are guys that I've seen get into these fist fights, right? And people that, you know, if you cross them the wrong way, you know, it's on. They're singing this song and they're breaking down with these songs.
Yeah.
You know, and there was a hotline that we have for the radio station. And for many years, they would just call in. They didn't want to pay for the phone call. They would say, we have a collect call from the correctional.
From the county jail.
And they'll be yelling, just like the wind, play just like the wind. And then they hang up, you know, and that's the attachment that people have. And those are the songs that were dedicated the most in my area when it comes to freestyle music, and when it comes to people trying to keep their significant other or somebody that's going through heartbreak, like just like the wind. It's either the way she looks at me or just like the wind. Either is love or heartbreak, whichever one you pick. That's the one they want to dedicate. And so when it comes to your dealings with the label, your departure came after Just Like the Wind. What happened?
Well, it just so happens, just to give a little slight history, the song itself, I felt so passionate about it. Here I am, like I said earlier, with George Vascon, and as well Tony Estevez, putting me on every show you can think of.
I believe that.
And, you know, a lot of artists that I give the respect that have paved their way. You know, I'm very humble. I'm a very humble guy, you know, just like anybody else. I'm human. You get off on the wrong side of the bed. Sometimes you get off on the right side of the bed.
Absolutely.
But back then, here I'm getting all these shows in the right places. Wherever Judy performed, wherever Johnny performed, wherever Cynthia performed, wherever Suave performed. Now, mind you, George Vascon used to manage all those artists. So George used to play what was in the industry called my bulletproof shield. You know, he would take all the caquetero book, you know, ese tipo no puede cantar, and oh, listen, I don't like dealing with the Tony Garcia. Yo no creo que el canción no va a ningún lado. I don't think the song is that great for us to push it. And then George would use these artists, and I don't want to mention the name, but he's a very big time promoter. George says, I'm going to show you what it is, because there was a couple of times, for an example, to show you so you can understand. I'm like, well, how come I can't get in the Palladium? And he's like, well, Pete, they don't want you in the Palladium. Not that they don't want you, but I'm going to get you in there. You know, this week we got Judy there, so on and so forth. And believe me, there's going to be another parties coming up with Daisy Fuentes. I'm going to get you on that card with TKA, all the biggest. So by the time we're still promoting you, your song, Just Like the Wind, is going to get known. The way she looks at me is going to be known. So I go, okay, but I mean, well, why not? Well, you know what? I'm going to take you to a meeting. I want you to hear what the people say, what not the people, but the promoters say. We went to this meeting. The guy didn't even know who I was. It didn't matter because I'm a new artist. You know, if George, not using his name, but if George Lamont walked in the office, oh, what's up, George? You know, I'm walking in the office with George Vascon, and he's like, you know, who's he? And he goes, nah, he's somebody I'm working with right now. So the guy's talking, and he mentions me like if I'm not even sitting there. He goes, well, you know, Peter Fontaine, you know, he's got the new song, Just Like the Wind, you know, the come from the way she looks at me. You know, we had the record release party for him and stuff like that. Oh, man, really, that guy. Didn't that guy get into a big fist fight with like the bouncers up in Queens and wreck this guy's club? And well, yeah, well, that was already justified. That wasn't Peter. And it, you know, listen, it happens in all the clubs, you know, but still, I got to promote the kid, you know, and I really don't think the kid can sing, to be honest. You know, I think the song sounds like shit, excuse my French, but that's what he actually said. And here I am sitting next to George, and I want to just fork this guy like with a knife or something. I'm like, people. And what George showed me after the meeting, he was able to get me in there because he used like the Judy or the Johnny. If you want Judy or Johnny, you have to get Peter. And that's what it's about. I'm managing. Man, why can't you give me somebody else? Give me EXO or something. Yeah, I gave you EXO last week. You know, I got to promote the kid. And then we walk out the office, and then George said, you see what it is? I'm your bulletproof. You know how many times I got to hear that from not just only you as an artist, but other artists that people just want to frankly speak their mind and say, I don't like her because she's an alcoholic, or I don't like him because he does drugs, or I heard he was a drug dealer, or whatever it was. But I have to honor that contract and help you and push you. Now, all that said and done, I've done all the shows that George got me, all the shows that Tony Garcia had got me. And in between all of that, I'm still connected to the streets. And my little crew that used to support me all the time, they got their ears in La Calle. And I won't get deep into it, but they got their ears in La Calle. And finally, it comes to my attention, one of my panitas, rest his soul, his name was Sweepy. That was his nickname. Says to me, Mira, Pedro, you know, if all those don't know, you know, Pedro is Peter in Spanish. Nah, just joking. He says, Mira, Pedro, yo, you better like check your management, man, and your record company, because how many shows have you done so far? After a certain amount, aren't you supposed to start getting paid? Woo! Now we're talking money here. So I'm like, I guess. What do you mean you guess? Who do you trust, your management or your record company? Ask. Dude, that's what you're supposed to do. Well, why didn't you get a lawyer to begin with? Nah, because all right, then look, you got to get into the business aspect of it. It's great you up there on that stage doing what you're doing. Now you got to get into the money aspect and watch it, because once you start talking money, certain things stay quiet. So I asked, and I wasn't feeling comfortable. And I believed in my boy Sweepy, what he was going to tell me, because he ain't got nothing to lose. You know, he's not an artist. He's somebody, you know, de la calle. You know, he's got his money. But, you know, every time I would go certain places, he would always have my back, or lo que sea, or support me, or tell people to go to the shows. And when I questioned George, you know, he said, well, listen, I understand, but it's just kind of hard. And he kind of ping-ponged back to Tony. You know, it's the dealings with him. And it kept on doing a little ping-pong back and forth. And I said, listen, if this is going to go like this, ping-pong, and, you know, I do trust both you guys. I really trust you more because you're my management and you've dealt with me and got me out of a lot of jams. But I'll be honest, I'm not happy. And if I'm not happy, I don't think I'm going to be able to perform a great show. And George said, listen, if you're unhappy, then it is what it is. I'll release you from the contract. But you might have a little situation with Tony. So let me call him first before you call him. And whatever they spoke about, he called me back, George, and he said, go ahead, give Tony a phone call. And when I called him, Tony gave me an ultimatum. He said, your song went #1 somewhere. I'm not going to tell you where, but George is going to release you, he told me, from contract. You would have to be signed to me for the next 5 years exclusively. Exclusive production, exclusive management, everything exclusive. So basically, I couldn't go to the bathroom without asking Tony.
Yes.
And
those great ironclad contracts from the 80s.
Exactly. You know,
yeah.
The most that I did know that I literally wrote the song, and I knew that I was a part of somewhat of publishing because I came up with the melody. You know, and I told Tony, no thanks, man. I'll opt out. All I know is the song becomes humongous. I still get my royalty checks. That was way before the whole entire Facebook, you know, we're talking, like you said, the 90s, early, you know. Then I come to find out down the line, it was big in Brazil, big time. And, you know, and then that's when NV went out there to perform my song.
Do you feel that you were erased from the annals of history at that time because you were not happy, you were not getting compensated? So now you're going to move on. They're telling you you have to stick around for 5 years, and you say no, you take off. Now, do you feel erased from your accomplishment? Because these two songs, especially Just Like the Wind, were smash hits everywhere that everyone heard it. Not only in Brazil, but if you come to New England, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, these are places where, you know, your song is legendary. Chicago, you go to PA. It's just so many different states that love Just Like the Wind. Did you feel erased or tied where you couldn't perform or do anything?
Well, I didn't feel any of that. I did kind of at one point believed blackballed, but I didn't know the definition of it. And when somebody actually broke it down to me and said, there's no way a person could blackball you. They don't got that much power. You're the owner of that song. You wrote that. You sung it. And to say that is because I was a little depressed because I wasn't happy. And I left New York City, but not because of the music industry. I left because, you know, grandparents passed away. And so I moved to New Jersey, wound up in Camden, New Jersey.
Yes.
Woo! Nice place. And they give me a lot of love.
They love Freestyle in Camden.
Yeah, they showed me a lot of love out there. And that's when it hit me. Camden, Philly. I'm meeting basically freestyle junkies, people, hardcore guys that be like, yo, 2 for 1, 2 for 1. You're Peter Fontaine? Yo, that's my song. And then when the impact that hit me, it gave me the hope again to be like, you know what? Maybe I should start performing again. But now I got no management. I got no label. So I did my old school ways of thinking. I became a hustler again, but with music now. Now I'm hustling myself musically. I'm going to these local bars in Camden, meeting these big willies. I'm going to PA, connecting with people in Philly. And they're like, yo, we embrace you, papi. Yo, I know my man, you know, Jose Ortiz, you know, and he's got to connect. And yo, you can go up there and you, yeah, well, they'll pay you and stuff. And I'm like, yo, and so that started me back on my, and then I bumped into Tony Garcia in Atlantic City. And it was his birthday, and I snuck up on him, tapped him on the shoulder. Yo, what up? This is after the fact. All these years down the line, I said, Tony, what's up? And mind you, I still didn't know that it blew up in Brazil. I found that out a lot longer because it actually came out of NV's mouth.
Yes, and we'll talk about that briefly. Yes.
Yeah. So I looked at Tony. I was like, yo, what's up? How you doing? Not like a yo, what's up? Yo, T, what's up, man? Because mind you, like I said earlier, I still had a relationship with him. It doesn't bother. Business is business, you know, but I could still be cool with you. I don't have to be some gripe, you know, like some bloodshed. That's all Italians, we used to say, like, you know, you didn't shed no blood, so there's no harm. You know, you're just doing business. That's all it is. And so I said, Tony, look, you know, I still perform that song, Just Like the Wind, the way she looks at me. And his words to me was, at that time, yeah, those songs are dead to me. Whether it was true or not, I didn't know, but that meant to me that he really didn't care, you know.
Right.
And
well, let me just say that as a promoter, he did care, and as a DJ, he did care. And so, you know, as a DJ, I saw the labels were being relabeled, so it'll be Tony Garcia by himself, or it'll be NV, just like the Wind. So it created this confusion that, you know, it's the responsibility of the label, not of the artists, that were pit against each other because of contracts, because of music. So at that time, they relabeled the Tony Dr. Eddie Garcia featuring Peter Fontaine to now Tony Dr. Eddie Garcia, or Tony Dr. Eddie Garcia featuring NV. And so it was still your vocals, it was still the original production, but it was just a different name. So the confusion started, especially here in New England. I would fight with my co-hosts at the radio station to make sure they got it correctly. There is a Peter Fontaine rule here in New England, and that is if we're gonna have someone perform just like the Wind, it has to be Peter Fontaine. It can't be anybody else. Now, also in 1994, NV released an album, great album, got great songs on there. Girl, You Hear Me Crying, Some Kind of Love, which is one of my favorites. And there's also a version, a slowed down version of Just Like the Wind that's actually sung by NV.
Into the world of tomorrow, high behind the raindrops of sorrow. Dream of a love that could have been, but now you're gone forever. My love, my girl, just like the wind.
It is a remake of some sort, you know, different production. And when we presented that here, it wasn't received too well, because the hardcore freestyle fan, what they do in my area is they attach themselves to the original artist, and you can't remake a song if it's not better than the original. And even if it's better than the original, you're still going to have problems with the audience that we cater to, because they're not going to want to hear you sing it. They want to hear the original sing it. So we had that Peter Fontaine rule. So I believe that before we've booked you and NV in the same venue, but NV does all the songs that he wants to do from his catalog, except Just Like the Wind, and you get to do your stuff. But that's not the rule everywhere, you know, and there's not many people that know the facts behind the song Just Like the Wind. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here, because I think it's important. I think it's important, for one thing, for people to know who the person is that actually sings the song that is the popular version, and number two, that we understand that if an artist is actively singing the song that they perform and that they sang, that no one should remake it and then go out and re-sing it or sing it publicly when the original is doing it. You know, so I've seen people redo Judy Torres' song. She's active. No one should be redoing Judy Torres' song and singing them, because those are Judy Torres' song. And I know some people will say, oh, Judy Torres gave her blessing. What is she supposed to do? Is she supposed to like demean you on social media? She is the top of the food chain when it comes to freestyle. She's not going to say anything in a negative manner where people are going to come back and attack her. So she has to just play along with it. But my opinion as a promoter is that, you know, you don't remake a song of an artist that's active and then go ahead and perform it. Now, there are many exceptions or rules and a bunch of stuff that I don't want to get into, because I really want to talk about the Just Like the Wind situation. Not only did NV redo a version, but you stated before that in Brazil, your song is still to this day very popular. Now, I've seen at least a half a dozen performances by other men claiming to be you, because allegedly they already had stated previously that you had passed away.
Just like the wind. No, 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 no. Just like the wind. Dream of a love that could have been, but now you're gone forever.
and that other people are taking the mantle. So you will see a lot of different people play Peter Fontaine in Brazil. Now you've had some of those issues recently. Talk to me about how you're feeling about that.
My wife, who I am with now, is very deep into the books, very deep into the copyrights, very deep into infringement. One of my best mans at my wedding, I won't mention the name out loud because, but he is a legal lawyer. And so now it came about where everybody's looking at me in the organization, including my wife. My wife sometimes tends to get a little hasty.
A little.
Yeah, but she has all the rights because she's just defending what she believes in truth is a fact. You know, copyright infringements does fall into that factor. They say, what is it? To impersonate somebody is like a form of flattery. But now when you're trying to get too deep into it and make money and try to cut my neck, that's not a form of flattery. Now you're just bluntly just trying to say that I'm the docile person and I'm not the old Peter that you remember. Well, that giant woke up and I finally was like, you know what? This is it. It's done. It's done. I've had promoters come at me. I've had people personally in the industry say some things to me, and I've kept my mouth quiet too long. On top of the fact that I've had a lot of people who came home from prison, guys that went to Brazil and was like, yo, Pete, I was at that damn show. That wasn't you on stage. Mira, yo le quiero dar un puño. I'm like, yo, cálmate, papa.
Right.
Yo no canto. I don't sing for a living. I'm like, yo, this is business. You got to understand. And one of my guys says to me one day, this would never happen in hip hop. You're right. What do we do? Well, the giants awoke. We get a lawyer. We start getting him taken off of YouTube. He cannot sing my Just Like the Wind version song of my version. If he wants to sing the 1990 version or the 90, whatever version he did, that's fine. That's fine. And the reason why is come to
are you talking about NV right
now? NV, exactly.
Okay.
Because the same thing, what I explained to my organization, and my wife agrees in facts, and so does the lawyer, that listen, any song could be remade. Any song. And we're not even
tried in the half, yes.
Right. You know, what was it? What's the name of the group? Jump, you know, you better jump. Go ahead and jump. Well, you know, Journey, you know, the lead singer's not there no more. So anything.
Van Halen, you mean?
Van Halen. Where Eddie Van Halen left and then another one took over and everybody was all, oh my Lord. Yeah, David Lee Roth. I wouldn't listen to Van Halen because they don't have David Lee Roth. That's like saying I wouldn't listen to Just Like Whenever because NV sings it. No, if he does a remake to it, that's fine. The confusion comes in when you're mimicking my vocals on stage and it's not your voice. Right. That's copyright infringement. That's what a lot of promoters are not understanding. I've literally had a promoter tell me, well, he's doing his version of it. I'm like, no, he's not. I can literally hear that those are my vocals. He cannot do that. And to redo a song back then, I didn't take into the power move to say, you got to ask me permission. Not only just Tony Garcia, but those are my lyrics. That's my melody. So I am part of the music making. You know, Tony allowed you to do that and you thought you can get away with it because I wasn't as active. So NV tend to do what he did because of the Tony Garcia's doing, which, like you said, out in Brazil, there was no Facebook. There was no way for me to even know, you know? So now it's coming full for people from Brazil are putting my face and my voice to the song. And I'm getting a lot of Brazilian fan base that are saying, oh my Lord, you are the original. They still get a little funny duzzy with the Tony Garcia, you know, that is
because he's even gone to Brazil and
performed it. I've heard it through a grapevine. I think he went out to
I was told, and this is probably a lie, that he found somebody at a sandwich shop, and they're like, "Oh, you're good looking enough. You can do just like the Win. Give him a couple bucks, and that's it." But that's Brazil. You know, and the whole situation with Envy. I want to make it clear here that I support Envy, Noel Valet. I booked both Noel Valet and Peter Fontaine. We just want to keep things in a way where the community is aware that Peter Fontaine is the singer of the version that should be performed, which is just like the Win, the extended mix, and the way she looks at me. All these songs are by Peter, but you know, I don't blame Envy, because again, it's all about the continued confusion by the label back in the day until this day, where you know every other performance is a different person, or the mislabeling of music, the mislabeling of cassettes and CDs, and the introduction of other information that's not the original information. Here in my area, there was one of our co-hosts for the radio show that we do, a guy who was trained to be a radio personality, and every time they played just like the Win, it would be Tony Dr. Eddie Garcia featuring NV. Then I have to call him up and be like, "Hey, that's not the case. It's Peter Fontaine." "Oh, but it says NV on the record." "Yeah, we've talked about this so many times already in the last 10 years. Let's do this correctly." And you know, that person's no longer working with us at the radio station, but it was a long time argument that still continued for 10 years with confusing the audience, because then people will call in and say, "I want to hear NV just like the Win," and then you would play the version from the CD, and it's like, that's not what I wanted to hear. "Oh, then you want to hear Peter Fontaine then," because, and they gotta explain it, you know, and people are still like, "Nah, whatever." Just like now with social media, on social media you explain it and it's like, "Nah, whatever." They don't care. And for the most part, even the person that's trying to fight for their own rights, like yourself, you get ridiculed because you're fighting for your own song.
Well, I get ridiculed only through the people in the industry that don't believe that I have the voice or the knowledge to speak on their terms. I really don't want to bring this artist into this, but you could probably figure it out. This artist actually brought him out there, which we could only know King himself, you know. And it was then when my wife kind of let it out the box and went a little off on it, that he had mentioned, "Well, why doesn't your husband speak on this?" And I made a phone call directly. That's the kind of person that I am. If I have something directly with you, I'm gonna call you. I'm not gonna blast it all over social media. Social media might see the maybe the beginning start of it, and then it's not spoken anymore, or they might almost see the ending of it, where now the results is, "Why don't we see him performing in many places? Why this? Why that?" And that person did say, obviously, I really didn't pay attention and had no idea. I just knew that the song was big in Brazil. And I asked around, like, what's the last two biggest songs from this year, in this, you know, genre? And one of them, I totally forgetting the name of the song. It was a girl by the name of Stephanie, and you could end the word. And but it wasn't that Stephanie. It was another Stephanie. And they couldn't actually say my name or NV's. They just mentioned just like the Win.
Right.
And so, of course, you know, the guy's been to Brazil before, so he obviously maybe raised his hand. "Yeah, I'm the guy. And then when it comes to put it to attention, he said, "Listen, I'm just doing business." That really was a mess that Tony created. Right. You know, but
to talk briefly about the Stephanie situation, she was on here on this show, and you could go back to the episode where she talks about being put in that position and not wanting to do it, but she did it because they confused her name as Stephanie with Getaway Stephanie, and she wanted to pay homage, so that's what she did. Stephanie Bennett paid homage to Stephanie by singing her song, and it worked out well for her. And again, as a person that's not active, because they're no longer with us, right? And so it's something that was done to pay homage. But this is a different situation where we have multiple people, not just one, making pretend that they're you by singing over your vocals, a la Milli Vanilli. And so you want to be able to continue performing, and you want to continue to be booked no matter where it is, where the song is popular. And I still want to see NV get his shows. And, you know, maybe it's because we have the just like the win rule, the rule here in New England, that I want to see that implemented elsewhere. Same thing with people who are remaking songs of artists who are active. I don't think people would dare remake a TKA song right now, knowing that they're active. They wouldn't remake songs that from Cynthia, the dream girl Cynthia, because she's currently active. I know there are people out there that try to make their renditions, but it's still something that it needs to be monitored carefully. And if you don't know, you should ask permission or talk about it, have a discussion. Don't just do it. And so we can talk about this through the entire episode, but I wanted to make sure people know that you are the one who wrote it, the one who sings it, and the one that should be only allowed to sing it. Yeah. Not only the way she looks at me, but especially just like the wind. Because you know, your voice is unique. Nobody can mimic your voice. If the song stops out of nowhere and they can't you know, sing it live because it's not them. So why put yourself to that situation to be embarrassed?
Well, you know, that the good thing is that some of the people now, because I've actually, like I said, they woke the sleeping giant up, are respecting, and I'm getting quite a bit of some. There was a promoter that actually called me and said, "Is this your voice? Because we're making a commercial, and I don't want to use your voice. Like, I don't want to get involved." And listen, again, I am not. I'm an old school person. My dog wanted to jump into the video.
That's a beautiful dog.
Thank you. Come on, Lorenzo. I'm doing an interview here. He's like, "But I'm singing." He's like, "I'm singing just like the wind now. I'm gonna bite the heck out of you." So they actually are calling and asking permission, like in a respectful way. Is this your voice behind there? Because we're doing a commercial, we don't want to use any of your liking or your voice, and we're hiring. And I honestly say, there's like, we're hiring NV, and he's only doing his remake version, not yours. Right. Mm-hmm. And again, it's because of the lawyer, it's because of the wife, it's because of my organization, and we finally are going forth. I mean, it's been a long time coming. I didn't start in this business to be the street person that I was. But I started singing and dancing and doing all this stuff because I love to entertain as well, because I've been entertained. And so I think that's why a lot of the tri-state area, the Connecticut areas, they can relate to me because there is no faking or phony in me at all. You know, it's just what you see here. It's just, I don't put this hat on. I don't dress a certain way to be comfortable and make myself comfortable with people. This is what you're going to get, the real deal.
Let's talk about you coming to New England to sing your songs. People have embraced you in so many ways throughout the years. My favorite story is the first time that I got to meet you. Many people know that Just Like the Wind at one time was my favorite song of all time. It's still in my top 5. And so the only reason why it moved down is because of the story right now. So Peter came to perform here in New England. And at the time, I wasn't old enough to get into the club. Jesus the Juice Vasquez was my mentor at the time. And he had me be the roadie. I was picking up the artist. I had this badge and everything, which I'll show in the video if I find it, because I still have it. And I picked up Peter Fontaine. So I'm being a big fanboy. Peter gets here with these black and white Kinko's pictures that were dark, right? He was next to a tree, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I gotta be a superhero, you know what I mean? I had like $20 in my pocket, I think, maybe less. But I said, "Oh, so you don't have a marker for your autographs? Let's go to Stop and Shop and we'll go there." So we end up going at the same time with the marker shopping. And we get to the aisle where the marker's at. So I take the marker and I take it out of the packaging, and I give Peter a $5 bill, and I give him the packaging. I said, Go pay for it. I'm gonna go see if it works in your picture. I'm not sure why we didn't bring the pictures in. Don't ask me. I was all excited. So I go outside. Because Peter Fontaine needed a marker for his pictures. I give him the wrapping and $5 for him to go pay for it. I try to cut through the aisles. I don't know why. It made me look more suspicious, I guess. And as I go to the front to try the marker on the pictures, the security guards are behind me and they're like, "You got to come over here, sir." And I'm like, wait a minute. No, I'm not stealing. I gave him and I look back. Peter is already in the car with my $5. Okay, with my $5. And then he has the audacity to say, "Ha, you got caught." I'm like, "What do you mean? You inside?" So they bring me inside and they banned me from Stop and Shop. There was not a real arrest. It was just that they were dressed as, Stop and Shop police officers, but, I guess they were stopping me from taking a $3 marker. So, I told them, I said, I'm part of the show. Look at the badge. That's Peter Fontaine in the car, and I'm the roadie. And, they said, "You are banned from Stop and Shop for life." And that was the story, and I never got my $5 back, and that was in 1995.
Yeah.
In 1995, you returned with "You Were an Angel," and in 1996, you also had "One Moment in Time." You were a part of Metropolitan. How did that comeback come about? How did you get those deals on Metropolitan?
Well, living at that time, I was already living in Camden. So I always used to go back and forth to New York to visit some of my peoples and always bump into, somebody from the industry. It just, it so happens before I had did "You're an Angel," I had did the "One Moment in Time." Wilson Yepes, who was a great producer to me. Yeah. This man had a nice, his brother used to write songs, and he had a great song that I used to love. And he always felt like somebody like George Lamont could sing the song. But I would teeter with the song, And I'm trying to remember, I don't want to get too deep and loose, for the question, but of how I actually got to come to meet Wilson Yepes. But he became I always kept in contact with him. And here I go, and I see him in New York City one day. And I say to him, well, no. Before that, I asked him to come to Camden, Wilson Yepes, because he brought some artists with him. So I did a show. I promoted a show in Camden. Amy Torrey. Yes. He brought Amy down to the show. He brought Damien, who at that time I didn't know Nice and Wild like that, but he was supposed to be part of Nice and Wild. So he helped me out, and so I kept in contact with him. So I went down there, to visit him in his house. And I said, "Wilson, I got an itch. I want to do another song, And it just so happens, here we go again, relationship involved, doing something. And I dedicated that to that time in my life, one moment in time. And I thought about it, not just me, but everybody has a moment in time. They meet that person, drives them crazy, so on and so forth.
Yes.
And hence, that's how the song came out. "You're an Angel," I had that song way before, but I never had thought about it to take it out. "One Moment in Time" came. So, and not to confuse it, what I'm saying, because I met a girl when I was doing Just Like the Wind, performing as Peter Fontaine with the Tony. And that was another relationship, stood in Garfield, New Jersey for like maybe a couple of months. And the funny thing about the "You're an Angel" song is that I told the girl that night that I went home with her that she was so beautiful and she drove me crazy that by tomorrow morning, I would write a song for you. And then she was like, "Yeah, right." And hence, she's making breakfast. And here I am singing, "In my mind, I dream of you, you're in." And that song was going to go in a different direction. It was going to be called "Forever Hold Me." And I brought that to the attention of Willie Valentin at that time, before he even had Honor Roll Records. And Willie loved it. He did a demo on it. The song was a beautiful demo, but never did nothing with it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so going back to One Moment in Time, me linking up with Wilson Yepes, I told him this is a song that I got. Wilson Yepes did the production on it. Avantgarde Kiss, the whole entire, I think even Amy sang background on it or something. And Wilson was like, well, you know what? I do have a relationship with Jerry and the guys at Metropolitan. So I'm going to bring this to his attention and we can just do a one-shot, one-time deal, if that's okay with you. And I said, you know, it doesn't bother me. I'm not looking in this for the money as aspect of it. You know, though he did do a deal with him and we broke bread with some money. And the song came out on a compilation.
Yes.
And I more was looking at towards my fan base to be able to see that I'm still relevant, writing new songs, coming out with new songs. And it did grab the attention to some of my fans. They were like, oh, wow, Peter Fontaine, One Moment in Time.
That was a year when You Were an Angel came out in '95. That was the year that you came to New England.
Yeah.
And then we just kept on following your career. And then, you know, One Moment in Time came out. And
well, real quick on that to finish that off. That One Moment in Time, I had went back to New York and bumped into Michael K. Gomez, MKG, who, you know, producer of Tears Shed. And me and Michael, we go way back. I mean, even George Vascon at one time had managed them, you know. So, like in our first stomping grounds, you know, La Mirage up in the Bronx, Michael K. Gomez, Tears Shed, the way she looks at me, you know. So seeing Michael, I was like, yo, Mike, you know, I got a song, you know, I would like to do. And he was like, well, what song? And I let him hear the Forever Hold Me version that Willie Valentine produced. And Michael said, no. Take that bridge, You're an Angel, switch it around. And the part that goes, this is meant to be your loving, make that a bridge. And now we got a song. And we'll call it You're an Angel. And he said, I like the last song you did with that guy, Wilson Yepes, kind of like that Euro sound. He said, I want to do something with that. And he kind of did it a slow version, which I love my slow version of You're an Angel. Then he did it fast, like I always like. And so that's to, you know, answer the question with You're an Angel and One Moment in Time.
And you've been active too. You've also been on Alex and Nation's compilation. You've been working and putting out music independently. Is there something that you're working on for 2022?
Yeah, I just don't want to let it out the hat yet.
Yeah, I see how it is.
Yeah, but you know, I have 2 songs that I have been performing. I performed them for my fan base in Texas, all my Camden people. The last Philadelphia, I just did a show. Shout out to Eric B, DJ Eric B, and Dagwoods up in Philly. And my thing is now I'm on a testing ground, which I always like to do that. You know, if I'm able to perform a new song in front of the crowd way before I even put money on it or go to the studios, I want to make sure that that reaction to the crowd is going to be like, wow, yo, can I get a copy of that? And a lot of DJs are hogging me for Love of My Life.
Yes.
This track is like, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Tanasi. You know who Tanasi is.
Yes, Tanasi from Germany.
Yes. Kenny Freestyle, Andriano, and DJ TJ. Excuse me, TG. They're the ones that produced the music and gave me this track and blessed me with it. They blessed me with the track. And I have a lot of things I write about. My wife, for one, situations with my family, you know, and things that I've been through. So that song actually it's a Peter Fontaine song. You know, people, when I sing it, they say I sing it with passion. It's a nice beat. It's got a nice rhythm to it. It's a danceable beat. The hard part is that, you know, everybody's coming out with songs and they're waiting for me to drop this. And we're doing it in a different direction. And that was because of me and my master way of thinking. You know, I'm going to hit the streets with it first before. And you'll get definitely a copy of it. But I'm saying, but before I hit it, before I hit it to the DJs and they start playing it and then all of a sudden it leaks, and once it becomes on Spotify and the whole entire Apple Tunes and iTunes, I want to give it to the streets first. I want the streets to buy it and absorb it. And then I'll put it on the internet, because I've learned and I've seen a lot where a lot of people put something out on the net, it leaks. And then when you're trying to promote something, you get no benefit for the money you spend. I've become a businessman.
Absolutely.
The second one is called the Stand Tall. And that, I got to thank Alex Nation for this track. My brother, man, like, he's really supported me. And I supported him by doing a remake to a track called Eyes of Deception.
Yes.
That I did for Joey T and Fourth, what was their label?
Straightforward Entertainment.
Straightforward Entertainment.
Yes.
Joey T. And I bought my cousin Pika, Kirby, and Alex Nation on this project. And Andrea had produced the track. Joey helped me. And this was Eyes of Deception before I gave Alex told me to remake it, and he put it on his compilation.
Right.
I brought all these guys in. The only one that knew the song from beginning to end was my cousin Pika. So, I see your eyes across the room. I feel the tension in. And then Pika was able to be, yeah, spite the lonely, and then jump in. Now, here's Alex Nation not knowing the song. Here's Kirby. These guys, I'm like handing them papers and telling them to sing this part. So it was kind of like organized confusion in the studio. But we was able to get an okay. I thought it was an okay.
That's how magic is created, when you have a lot of different vibes and things just happen to spur the moment.
Alex told me he wanted me to remake it, though. That's one thing. He said, Pete, that song needs to just be sung by you.
Yes.
And that's where I gave that to Alex. He threw it on his compilation, and in return helped me out with getting this beat to Stand Tall. Right. Once that drops, man, Stand Tall is anybody who's been put down, anybody who's been laughed at, anybody who's been pushed back. This is a song that I speak on, where you stand tall. It's not, even though in the chorus I'm saying stand tall, I'll never fall. But this is what I pitch to my whole entire fan base and those who listen to the song, because it's me in my hustling times on the streets thinking like, what am I going to do? And then the second verse is my fantasy that came true as far as me performing as an artist.
Right.
When I close my eyes, I can hear a melody. That's where I want to be. Music's my destiny. And although music's my destiny, anybody else, it could be your destiny to do whatever you want. You just got to stand tall. And we need songs like that now. I'm trying to switch up the concept of subjects,
it's inspirational. It's a way to inspire others, and there's always a message in the music. All you have to do is listen. That's a KLS quote. And that's one of our DJs here at 90.7. But Peter, man, I want to thank you for coming on and discussing your career. I want people to understand that this is not meant to be incendiary towards NV. NV and Peter Fontaine, I support them both. I just know that I feel one certain way about Just Like the Wind, the song itself. And it's not the fault of either of these men. This is something that was started, 32 years ago, that continues on here in 2022 in Freestyle. Just want to make sure we get some information out there. And as you've seen in this video, there are so many people that have portrayed the character of Peter Fontaine, where there's only one, and he is a character, but that's the original singer of Just Like the Wind. So Peter, thank you so much for joining us here on CPR's Clubhouse Live. And don't forget to click the link so you could get some information on Peter Fontaine and his future projects. We're going to link you up with his social media page, so you'll be able to visit him and tell him how much inspiration you get from songs from Just Like the Wind to The Way She Looks at Me and You Are an Angel. And you can also thank him for your children, because I'm sure that playing those songs got some people hooked up.
Definitely. Don't forget to say, check me out on my .net, my peterfontaine.net that I have on the website. That's
we're going to put all that information in this video. Check out the description, peterfontaine.net. Just click the link and you'll be there. And hopefully you have some things for sale that they can purchase.
Yeah, we're working on that. Yep, definite.
Peter, thank you so much again for being part of CPR's Clubhouse Live.
Thank you so much. God bless, man. Much love and respect to everybody.
As I look into your eyes, I can see that you wanted me to love you. You wanted to be mine. You said that it was wrong, you loving me loving you. But you had a desperate heart, and so did I. Dreams that we made, were they all in vain? How could your name go so far? You was calling out my name as we made it up through the night. You told me that you love me, but you're gone. Now you're gone.